Ryan Carter walked into Riverside Grill soaked to the bone and exactly 7 minutes late that he barely had time to catch his breath before the manager fired him on the spot, right in front of 30 customers who suddenly went dead silent. Not one person said a word. Not one person dared stand up for him. What Ryan didn't know was that the elegant silver-haired woman he had picked up walking in the pouring rain the night before was sitting quietly in the corner booth, watching every second of the humiliation. And when Eleanor Whitaker stood up and walked toward the counter, every cruel word Derek Vaughn had just thrown at Ryan was about to come back and haunt him for the rest of his life. But let's start from the beginning. From that stormy night in Chattanooga, Tennessee, when one small act of kindness changed everything forever. The rain that night was merciless. Rain fell in sheets so heavy it felt like the sky was trying to wash the world away. Ryan Carter gripped the steering wheel of his 15-year-old Chevy Silverado, the sleeves of his black Riverside Grill polo still damp from a soda spill earlier in the shift. The wipers screamed, but he could barely see 10 feet ahead. It was almost midnight. The last tour bus had finally left the diner, and Ryan had stayed late to serve them with the same tired smile he always wore. His mind wasn't on the tips. It was on his 7-year-old daughter Mia, probably already asleep at their neighbor Mrs. Ramirez's apartment. This week's paycheck would just cover rent and groceries, as long as nothing broke, as long as Mia didn't get sick, as long as the truck kept running. Too many, as long as for a single dad who'd been both mom and dad for 3 years now, ever since leukemia took his wife Jessica in less than 6 months. The headlights swept across wet magnolia trees lining the road out of downtown Chattanooga. The streets were empty. Too empty that's when he saw her, a lone figure walking slowly on the shoulder. No umbrella. Soaked through, an older woman. Silver hair plastered to her head, elegant coat ruined by the rain. One hand clutching a broken high heel, the other holding a dead phone. Ryan's foot eased off the gas. His brain screamed, "It's late. Mia's waiting. You don't know her. This road is dark." But then he saw her shiver violently, saw her look around with pure helplessness, and something in his chest twisted. 3 years ago, on a night just like this, Jessica's car had hydroplaned. Someone had driven past. Someone else had kept going to be why the time help arrived. It was too late. Ryan would never know who those drivers were, but he knew who he wanted to be. He pulled over, rolled the window down halfway. "Ma'am, you okay?" The woman turned, startled. Rainwater streamed down her wrinkled but still beautiful face. Her green eyes were wide with a mix of fear and disbelief. "My car died 2 miles back," she said, voice trembling. "Phone's dead. I've been walking almost an hour. I think I'm lost." Ryan didn't think twice. "Get in. You're freezing." Eleanor Whitaker hesitated only a second. Every warning about strangers flashed through her mind, but the cold one. She climbed into the warm cab, water pooling on the seat. "Thank you," she whispered. "You didn't have to stop." Ryan gave a tired smile. "I'm Ryan Carter. Eleanor Whitaker," she answered, extending a shaking, ice-cold hand. They drove in comfortable silence for a while, the rain drumming on the roof. "Where were you headed?" Ryan finally asked. "Coming back from my granddaughter's birthday in Atlanta. Took a wrong turn, ended up on this back road, and then the car just died." Ryan nodded. "Happens. We'll get you warmed up. I only live 10 minutes away. You can stay the night, couch is yours. I'll call a tow truck first thing tomorrow." Eleanor stared at him. "You'd let a stranger sleep in your home? With your family?" Ryan shrugged. "I've got a daughter, 7 years old. She's at the neighbor's tonight. And ma'am, you don't exactly look like a threat." A small laugh escaped Eleanor despite everything. For the first time in hours, she felt human again. 20 minutes later, they pulled up to a modest brick apartment building on the east side of Chattanooga. Inside, the place was small but spotless. Children's drawings on the fridge, Lego pieces on the coffee table, photos of a smiling blonde little girl everywhere. "My daughter Mia," Ryan explained softly when he saw Eleanor looking. "She's beautiful," Eleanor said, warmth spreading through her chest. Ryan handed her towels and an oversized University of Tennessee hoodie that swallowed her whole. While she changed, he heated up leftover chili and made hot tea. They sat at the tiny kitchen table. "I can't thank you enough," Eleanor said sincerely. Just glad I saw you, Ryan answered. Not many cars on that road at night. Eleanor studied the young man. Exhausted eyes, calloused hands, but still a light in them. You work hard, she said. It wasn't a question. Waiter at Riverside Grill. For years now. Pays the bills. Lets me be there for Mia's school plays. And your wife. The light dimmed. Passed 3 years ago. Cancer. It's just us now. Eleanor reached across the table and squeezed his hand. I'm so sorry. I lost my husband 10 years ago. I know how heavy that road feels. They talked until almost 2 a.m. About grief, about raising kids alone, about how the world sometimes forgets kindness still exists. Eventually, Ryan set up the couch with clean sheets. Sleep well, Mrs. Whitaker. Eleanor, please. And Ryan. Thank you for reminding me there are still good men in this world. At 5:30 a.m., Ryan woke to make Mia's lunch. The couch was empty, blanket folded perfectly, and on the coffee table was a handwritten note. Ryan, you saw a helpless old woman and treated her like family. You reminded me what matters most in this life. I will never forget your kindness. Eleanor Whitaker, he smiled, slipped the note into his pocket, and went to pick up Mia. He never expected to see Eleanor again. But the universe had other plans. That same morning, everything went wrong. Mia woke up with a fever. Ryan gave her medicine, kissed her forehead, and promised to be home early. Then the truck wouldn't start. By the time it coughed to life, he was late. 7 minutes late, he burst into Riverside Grill dripping wet, hair messy, shirt clinging. The diner fell silent. Derek Vaughn, the manager, slicked back hair, permanent sneer, was waiting behind the counter. Carter, you're late. Again.
I'm sorry, Derek.
Truck wouldn't. I don't care. Derek cut him off, loud enough for the whole room to hear. You think this is a charity? You think your sob stories pay my bills? Customers looked up from their pancakes. Waitress Sophie froze with a coffee pot in her hand. Cook Marcus kept his head down. Derek, please. My daughter's sick. The truck. Take off the apron. You're fired. Right now. In front of everyone. Everyone. The words hit like a slap. 4 years of perfect attendance. 4 years of covering shifts. Smiling through exhaustion. Picking up trash in the parking lot without being asked. Gone in 7 minutes. Ryan untied the apron with shaking hands, laid it on the counter, and walked out into the rain. He stood on the sidewalk. Rain mixing with tears he refused to let fall. How was he going to tell Mia? How would they eat next week? He didn't see the black Mercedes parked across the street. Didn't see Eleanor Whitaker watching everything through the tinted window, her face hardening with every word Derek spoke. She tightened her grip on her cane. So that's how they treat him, she whispered. She checked her watch. 9:15 a.m. perfect timing. Eleanor Whitaker had owned Riverside Grill for 2 years, a quiet investment in her late husband's memory. She had never once visited, trusting Derek Vaughn's glowing reports and numbers, until now. She stepped out of the car, adjusted her coat, and walked into the diner like she owned the place. Because she did. The bell above the door chimed. Every head turned. Derek's face lit up with panic and fake smile. Mrs. Whitaker, what an honor. Save it, Eleanor said calmly, voice carrying without effort. She walked straight to the counter, cane tapping the tile floor. I watched everything, Mr. Vaughn. Every word. Derek went pale. Ma'am, I can explain. You just fired the best employee this diner has ever had because he was 7 minutes late after saving my life last night. A collective gasp rippled through the diner. Eleanor turned to the room. My name is Eleanor Whitaker. I own Riverside Grill. Last night, this young man picked me up walking in the rain, took me into his home, gave me dry clothes, food, and a place to sleep without knowing who I was. She looked at Ryan, who had just walked back in, stunned. Ryan Carter is reinstated immediately, and starting today, he is co-owner and general manager of Riverside Grill. The diner erupted in applause. Derek stood frozen, mouth opening and closing like a fish. Eleanor continued, voice like steel. Mr. Vaughn, you will stay on paper as manager, but only to learn what respect actually looks like. One more stunt like this morning and you're gone. Permanently. 3 months later, Riverside Grill looked completely different. New paint, new menus, photos of staff and regulars on the walls, and a big sign out front, Riverside Grill, where kindness is always on the menu. Ryan stood behind the counter in a crisp shirt, no longer exhausted. Mia sat at the corner booth doing homework, waving at customers. Sophie was now assistant manager. Marcus finally had help in the kitchen. Revenue was up 60%. But more importantly, people were happy. One evening, Eleanor dropped by, as she often did now. She and Ryan sat at the same booth where everything started. "You changed my life, you know?" Ryan said quietly. Eleanor smiled. "You changed mine first. You reminded a lonely old woman that the world is still good." Ryan laughed softly. "Did you know I worked here that night in the rain?" She shook her head. "Not a clue. Just knew you were a good man who stopped in a storm." "Fate," Ryan said. "Or kindness coming full circle," Eleanor replied. They looked out the window at the Tennessee River flowing peacefully under the setting sun. And on another rainy night months later, when Ryan saw an older man struggling with a flat tire on the same road, he didn't hesitate. He pulled over. Because kindness doesn't need a reason, it only needs to be passed on. And somewhere up there, Jessica and Eleanor's husband were smiling down, knowing the circle keeps turning. One stranger, one act, one heart at a time. If the story touched your heart and reminded you that one small kindness can change everything, like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe for more stories that prove good still wins. Because sometimes, all it takes is one person who refuses to drive past.